and you know what time it is. It is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays, what happens at 1 p.m.? Well, it is tipping points and puzzle pieces. That's what time it is. So we're super excited to be here again. This is episode 98. We're two away from grand episode 100. So fasten your seatbelts. We're going to have a great show for you. Before I bring Mark up, I do want to let everyone know the severe weather shelter is open this evening. I just got that trigger on my phone, so please do let people know. But without further ado, let me go ahead and bring on the prince or the pauper of principal discussion, Mark Boatwright Frost, everyone.
Hey,
How are you doing today?
I'm scaring the hell out of everybody. I'm doing fine. I think we should cue Tears for Fears. Everybody wants to rule the world, but we can't because we'll get a knock against us and we won't be able to show the program.
So just play it in your head.
Yeah, it's just
Everybody wants to rule the world.
exactly. And considering music's supposed to be the soundtrack of our lives, I have to say that the music industry has not made that easy to do.
No, they do not. And
It,
I can understand it, but there's no nuance to it, right?
no, it's all done by bots. There's no human involved.
Well, and what's unfortunate about that, it is a few bad apple humans that made it bad for everyone else because they always push the envelope and just take, right? It isn't intellectual property. People have worked hard for it. And it's
And they
like,
should
hey,
get compensated.
playing a 15-second snippet of something shouldn't be a problem. But now it's like we just got to hammer you as soon as we hear it. I get just so people know, if you see shows disappear, Sony is like the biggest offender. I constantly get shows challenged. If there's
I
any
get it. I get notifications on my Facebook. I can tell you he gets multiple a day.
and we're not even playing music. You've seen many of the
Yeah.
shows where there's no music at all, and it's like Sony claims the rights to da 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 da, and I have to dispute it. And then after a few weeks, it's like, oh, they released it. So
It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
it's ridiculous.
By the way, just as a side note, do you know who Rick Beato is, Marwan?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Rick Beato was a teacher, became a studio musician, has become a producer. He has one of the most popular YouTube shows of all time. He's got multiple million viewers. He sells packages of teaching you how to tune your ear for music and everything else. He also has gone to the Senate or to Congress to talk about the copyright issues and
Ah,
all of the things we talk about. But he just came out with a recent video, I think this week, where he was talking to somebody who was a producer in the 90s for the big record companies. I think Geffen was who he worked for. And they talked about how everything in 96 changed the music industry,
wow.
how it all codified, it all reduced. People lost their jobs. Apparently, President Clinton signed an act into law. I cannot remember what it is right now. But it allowed the codification where one radio or one company can own hundreds of radio stations. And they immediately made everything electronic, one program manager for like 100 stations. They all play the same music in different areas, and there's no selection of music. But there was so much more to it than that, and it's like 40 minutes, but it's well worth listening to if you want to know how corporations affect jobs and what their model is to do it, because the music industry is just one, but it plays across all of the corporations. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, I would definitely be interested in checking that out.
Yeah, so it's on the Kids Up Resiliency Project page. um, and um, I'm just thinking I'm going to talk about this here. Hold on just a second, let me pull something up. um, See if it's still saying what it was saying earlier today, because I found it enormously funny. I'm going to talk about something here that apparently I couldn't talk about anywhere else because, yeah, okay, here it is. I can't show the picture, but if you go to Microsoft's weather app, which is on all Windows machines,
Mhm.
and click the monthly, it talks, I was checking to see about the snow and everything like that. And it says, yeah, there's some snow next week, and the snow predictions have been changing, and da 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 da. And then I look down at the 22nd, And the 21st is 48 degrees and 40 degrees on the low side. The 22nd is 83 degrees and 76 degrees. And it goes that way all the way through. Yeah, go to hit the monthly forecast and scan down toward the bottom. See, 84,
Wow.
83, 81. And they just announced yesterday that last year was the hottest year on record.
Hmm.
And I posted this with a circle of that saying, this concerns me more than the snow. And that it was the hottest year on record. It was supposed to spur some conversation, but people got offended by it, said I was trying to scare the hell out of them. But I just found it amusing. But in the amusement, there's also the, wow, what if, um, and when is these China changes going to happen?
You know that kind of triggers a previous conversation that we were having, right? And while we would think that Microsoft Weather would be a trusted source for weather, sometimes there's some common sense that also has to be
Yeah, applied.
deployed into your own mind to say, okay, this is clearly a typo. Someone maybe copy and pasted or somehow got Texas's weather or something else
Yeah.
in here. Um, but yeah, wow. But there are some people that will see this and say, hey, 2 weeks from now, we're gonna be in the 80s.
Yeah, and raining, and so it's going to be like typhoon weather.
That what a thought, man.
So yeah, it's just like so it's kind of funny, but we are changing. Things are changing,
Mhm.
and part of the reason we say we need to come together. So let's start into the topic of today. And as I kind of jokingly said, Tears for Fears, everybody wants to rule the world. But we're going to talk about how everybody wants to change the world, and I think that it's a good thing to look at that and use common sense, and to maybe gain some perspective. I know you guys are tired of hearing me say perspective, 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 but it really is the most important thing. Everybody wants to change the world, but everybody wants to do it in their own way. Okay, um, everybody wants to have the world be the way they want it to be. And I'll little analogy here. I worked in the glass and marble industry in San Francisco in the early '80s, or actually the mid '80s to early '90s. And the owner of the company said two things that always stuck with me: is I would rather use a pencil than a computer.
Mm.
But that was just his note. And if I were king, I would do all of these things and change everything. How many people do you know that have the if I were king, I would make things better and I would change things to fix all the problems? A lot of people think that way. But you think about it, um, a lot of political um, organizations play to people like that and promise things that are about controlling other people's behavior. Now, usually never mention controlling their own behavior, but they want to control other people's behavior. And what we're talking about here to change the world is bringing people to the table and having them share their needs and experiences and coming up with consensus of what needs to be changed. Do you trust one person and their views and their filters and their experience to be able to make a change that will benefit you, let alone everybody else?
Well, I don't think that's possible, right? Because everyone's needs are different, and
Mhm.
sometimes those needs are gonna be, contradictory to each other.
So, why would we believe that one person is going to save us? One leader is going to save us, yet we're trained to believe that.
I don't know if we do. I think it's just the system that we're in, and many feel that we're powerless to change it, and so therefore they don't. I was just having a conversation about that today, after a meeting, and just having that same actual discussion of, folks are there's so much apathy in either side when we're talking about
Mhm.
political things, right? And things, the more they change, the more they stay the same, and you can't make any progress. And so folks are not understanding that, the power is bottom up and not top down.
Mhm.
And so having a conversation of needing to educate folks, and show them why all the power is with the people and not with the few that we elect to the top, right? That they are supposed to do our bidding, not the other way around.
Right. They're supposed to represent us. And actually, Bo has been saying this more and more. And for those of you who don't know, Bo of the Fifth Column is something that someone who both Marwan and I watch. Quick note on that: Bo was not on much yesterday because there were multiple tornadoes through the Panhandle of Florida.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he no longer has a greenhouse, and he says
Oh,
polycarbonate is better than glass. There is an RV park there that no longer exists,
wow.
and it was extraordinarily damaging. He was out yesterday trying to see what people needed so he can get them. Cause I don't know if, for those of you who don't know him, he does a lot of fundraising, and a lot of the money he makes on YouTube goes toward creating resources for people who've gone through hurricane season and need tarps or generators or chainsaws or gas or whatever to help get out of the mess they're in. And so he was immediately out driving around trying to help people and find out what they needed. But so just a note there. But Bo says, frequently, especially about state legislators who are so adamantly not doing what the people are demanding they do, he says they no longer represent you, they rule you in their own minds. And you do not have the intelligence or the understanding to make your own decisions. And that is
That's
that
dark.
that's dark. But the more news I read and the more I listen and the more I review, the more I see that Ohio just codified reproductive rights in their constitution, and the state legislators, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. We're going to fix that.
Mm.
I'm like, wait, the vast majority of people voted to have that put into their constitution to make sure it's secure, and you're going to change that? I think you got this mixed up here. You represent them, not the other way around. So, I'm not really crazy about people telling me do what you're told, especially when doing what I'm told is ridiculous and doesn't benefit anybody.
Do you know what their recourse is?
I did not go back and read the article, but we're seeing the same thing in the Wisconsin and Michigan and other places where the people are coming up and saying we need these things taken care of, and the legislature saying, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about.
Wow.
We'll take care of it for you."
Yeah, we'll fix that. Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
And so we do
and
need a campaign of education, right?
we do. We need to reach out. We need to talk to people. We need to have long discussions with folks. Um, we need to get people to understand that their humanity, the humans have much more in common than not. And if we can get over trying to rule each other, I mean, even on a personal level, and put our opinions on somebody else, we can get a lot of stuff done that's good for everybody.
Well, I might say the powers that be probably wouldn't want this, but I would say probably in elementary school, these principles probably need to start being taught
Yeah, we
and
used to
practiced.
have civics class. We used to have civics classes, and in my civic class in high school, we actually went through the electoral process, so we would understand how all three branches of government work and how they reflect with each other. They don't teach civics in high school anymore.
Well, and I don't think it could be a checkoff type thing, right? Like every state,
Yeah,
you're going to do Washington State history, and then you're kind of past that, and then you'll do this, and it's one class, and you're done. Maybe they start a lot younger
yeah,
and find ways to encourage dialogue on current events, at different levels as it's appropriate, but really get, our youth invested into it where there's an entitlement to it, as
yep.
a someone who lives here.
Well, absolutely, and I think it goes through level, but I think that should be done. The fact that it's not being done tells us that our education system and our government does not want to promote democracy, because democracy is hard. You have to work at it. Therefore, you have to understand it. Therefore, you have to be educated in it. Therefore, it has to be part of the curriculum. It has to be part of our culture. It has to be part of who we are. And it isn't anymore. And that needs to be addressed.
I don't know if it ever was, but to that end, I
Well,
think that's where
in the
those
60s
that
and 70s, it was taught.
well taught, but I don't know if it actually existed
Yeah.
in practice. Great theory, but we didn't quite get there.
So
Yeah,
let let's go back to the infographic that I put out the other day. It was called "Real Democracy: One Neighborhood at a Time." So the whole point of it is to teach people how to um, have democracy and what real democracy is, one neighborhood at a time. Marwan's bringing it up, so we'll be able to see it in a moment. Um,
allegedly somehow I got logged out of Facebook, so
oh,
it's just so bizarre.
yeah, funny how that works.
What did I make my password? I don't
Oh my God.
I have no idea.
Hang tight. I'll share my screen and bring it up.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, share screen.
Hilarious.
Um, we'll put this over here.
Okay, wait. Uh,
See who gets there
really?
first. Come on. Yeah, now, of course, everything freezes up on mine. Okay. There it is.
Someone's gonna have to send me my password.
Um, okay, let me move this over here. Let's see if it's big enough for us to read. Um, Window. There we go. Share. There it is.
Bam.
Theoretical. Yeah, there it is. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this. Real democracy, one neighborhood at a time. And I will see if I can make this go bigger now. All right. And we'll start up here.
Good
We
memory
went through
there,
the,
sir.
yeah. So this is how we are working our project. That we do neighborhood ambassador. We start gardening to get people to connect. We get them to start breaking bread and having conversations. We're with them through this process, both by training the ambassador to facilitate and to come in when things get hard or discussions and try and keep it back on the human. I did get a note this morning on this from an old friend of mine from high school who's a forensic psychiatrist. And he said the human focus part of it, when we talk about staying away from politics or religion or anything divisive, he says, well, a lot of people, um, that is their humanity. That's the way they view humanity. I said, that's true, but it's also the thing that keeps us most divisive. So in some
But
ways,
does
I
it
think we
have
have,
to?
it doesn't have to, but I think we need to get to a point where we can acknowledge it and not try and put it on somebody else, which is usually where it gets divisive. Um, okay, so obviously I'm now there. But democracy is okay. So the way that this is democracy is once the neighborhood comes together, they start building consensus on things that need to be done. Like we need more jobs in Kitsap County. How are we going to do that? Well, another part of the Food for All project is to build grow centers, which is going to require hiring people to put in a processing center that allows us to meet USDA standards and make sure that the food is safe and secure. And we start a process of consensus, and then they elect a representative to go to a group of neighborhoods and start the process over again. This is how democracy works from the bottom up. You say what you need to have done. You go into a group of other people that say what they need to have done. You work through the consensus process again, communicating both ways all the way through, and you create a grassroots network focused on human continuity. And because everybody's being communicated with, everybody has a voice, and everybody understands that when the priorities change as it goes up the chain, your priority is still in the process. It is just maybe farther down the list in the process because of another process that has gone on that said, well, these things we didn't think of, but they're really important. So, okay, we're okay with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so that's kind of how we're doing the education piece of this. But going back to the everybody wants to change the world, everybody has their own way of looking at it and wanting to change it. we believe that only engaging people in the process will we be able to get everybody's voice and determine what that change needs to look like. It has to be inclusive. It has to be diverse. Otherwise, it's just another stone in a road that's crumbling. And Marwan's looking at something, trying to find something too to share. So,
Yeah, I wanted to get in case you had something else to trigger me.
okay, cool.
Look up.
So I'm going to close this out if I can actually
I can
manage to
I
do it.
can do it for you. You got it.
Yeah, I got it. I'm just going to unshare. I unshared it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just for future. If you ever pop something up, I can turn it on and off once you pop it up.
Okay.
That way you don't have to worry about it.
Okay. Then I just have to manage the moving up and down, which
Mhm.
was really interesting because I started to use my wheel and it kept getting bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller. I'm like, okay, so I drag it up. All right. It's the technical stuff I have to figure out in the spur of the moment. So as we move forward, how do we get people educated? Well, this is our way of getting people educated, and I think now's a good time to talk about Stone Soup for a minute.
Sure.
February 9th, it's less than a month away. It was a month away yesterday. It is now less than a month away. It is going to be at the West Side Improvement Club. I can put up a flyer
Ooh, you got a
for us.
flyer?
We do have a flyer. And I will actually, I'm going to message that to you on Facebook and then you can pull it up.
Boom, I
So
love
just
it.
1 second.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Yeah, we've got a flyer out. It's a lot of different places already. We're trying to get people to Facebook, but that's always kind of a yeah, figure that one out.
Is it this
Um,
flyer here?
hold on, let me get back to the page. Um, is that the flyer or the actual? Yeah, that's one. I've got an updated one. Just 1 second.
All right. It looks tasty though.
Yeah, what was I with that? Oh, yeah, I'm having fun today. I'm tripping all over myself.
Well, and while Marcus put that up, that will be February 9th at 6 p.m. at the West Side Improvement Club. So please feel free. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat for folks so they
And
have it.
boom, it's just been sent to you.
All right.
Okay, and if you're on Facebook, please go to Facebook and say you're coming and show up. The price of admission is bring something for the soup. Again, because of logistics, if you have meat or potatoes or something that takes a while to cook, send a message to engage@reseco.org, and we will get that and make arrangements to get it from you before the event.
And if you say number one, then we will laugh. See, Mark
Okay,
did because he understands.
yes. Star Trek reference. Of course, I'm going to understand. By the
Yeah.
way, Picard won 3 Emmys. I
Really?
think.
Oh, for
Yeah,
Star Trek?
yeah. Star Trek
Wow.
Picard.
Oh, for Picard.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Ah, nice.
So anyway, this is the event flyer. We are asking people because for those of you who don't know the story, you can go to the event and it tells the story on Facebook. Just type in Stone Soup under events, I guess, or whatever, or go to the Kitsap Resiliency Project page and go from there. We're asking you to bring your bowl and spoons because it's a village, and the 3 soldiers who were separated went to the village, made soup for everybody, made the magical stone soup for everybody, and they brought their bowls, and the village was fed for a week. And this is what we're going to be talking about. We also have people coming to do demonstrations on gardening and talk about gardening,
Nice.
renewable energy. I will say right now, nobody is going to try and sell you anything here. Matter of fact, if they do, I will throw them out. This is just for your information. We'll talk about what renewable energy can do. We'll talk about, we're going to have a presentation on what resilient community projects are about, what the Kitsap Resiliency Project is, which is a resilient communities project. And we will be announcing the community champions for 2024.
Nice.
And we hope to have them there so that we can hand them a plaque or a certificate. I'm not sure which yet. So yeah, and if you feel so inclined, you can go on to Patreon under Resilient Communities and donate to us, which will help us do more events as we go forward. I actually have somebody from Wisconsin asking how to put the event together because they want to do one in Wisconsin.
Oh, okay, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying, hey, one, it's free.
Hmm.
Just bring
Well, it's
something for
not. You
the
have to bring
soup if
something for the
you
soup.
can. But also that you're not being sold on anything, right? Just come and fellowship and break bread, which is a very odd saying because I really don't want really old, hard, stale bread that I've got to break in half. I want some soft bread that we can rip and share.
Well, we
Let's
will have we
bread
will
together.
have both, and we will have gluten-free options, and we will have gluten-free bread.
Let's rip bread together.
Okay. Yeah.
Breaking it just seems. But yes, so I appreciate you saying that. It really is an
Yep.
opportunity just to get together and talk and learn a little bit and have some fun, and meet some new people, hopefully, uh,
Yep.
yeah, and grow the community.
Yep, and we're getting a lot of good feedback on this. Sam Spiva from Spiva Spices is donating all the spices for the
Nice.
event. And we are going to, and again, this is not a fundraiser for us. This is about getting together for community. But if you want to donate to Patreon, we will not turn you down.
Ooh,
Um, so this is kind of how we're focused on. It's about you. It's about the community. It's about getting people together. It's about having food together. It's about everybody giving a little bit and having a wonderful meal. Chris now has said the chef Chris now said he will be there. It is in his calendar,
oh, okay.
um, and he will be doing both vegetarian and meat based soups. And he will make the soups that day based on what he has. So it's going to be a pretty magical event.
Ooh,
And
I
I
hope
expect
you.
I expect Marwan will be there emceeing with me.
Oh, well, I'll be there. I hope he'll write it down. Uh, like if someone tastes the soup and it's like, "Oh my goodness, this is like the best I've ever tasted. What is in this?" And chef can say, "Yeah, well, this one had this, 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 and that."
Well, we may have to find somebody to be the recorder
Record
for
that.
him.
Yeah. Or videotape it or something so you could do it
Yeah.
after the fact or whatever. It'd be a lot of fun. So if anyone wants to do that, right? Many hands make light work, as we always
Yep.
say. If you want to record what goes into the soup, I think that would be pretty fun, right? What spices does chef decide to kind of mix together and bring out different flavors?
And last time, somebody brought a side of goat, and he made soup
Mm,
out of it, and it was pretty amazing. So
goat is delicious.
yeah, so it was a pretty amazing night. I expect that we will all be well fed. We will be happy, and we will be talking about all of these things. We will be talking about the project. We will be talking about neighborhood and being a neighborhood ambassador. We will talk about the support that we give and how we see the future happening, and how you are a piece of the puzzle.
Hmm.
So
Looking forward to it. It's not far off.
nope, less than a month. One day less than a month as of right now. So yeah, this is the heart of what we're doing. And again, everybody wants to change the world, and everybody. Let's be honest. Everybody knows that things are wrong, and everybody and young people know that it's so wrong that it may not get fixed for them.
Hmm.
And they are. If you wonder about some of the attitude you're getting, and a little side thought on this one in a moment, from young people, it's because they feel like the world got screwed over and left to them and with no resources. And I think we've all felt that way at certain times in our life. And I certainly feel that way because I'm watching the world and I'm watching how people are trying to address it. I'm watching how um, nonprofits are given a job but no resources and are having to fix problems. Big, big, big problems, far surrounding them. And other nonprofits aren't really trying to do anything but seem to get all the resources. So it's kind of like that way for them to look at things. And I did want to, this is not a judgment on them, it's a question and then some thinking behind it. Um, I've noticed the trend of younger people wearing what looks like pajamas going to school. And I've been puzzling about this for a while. And I realize that there are different cycles of different uniforms the kids wear to be in the uniform. But this made me think, and again, I'm not judging. This is my thinking process I'm sharing with you.
I am. Continue.
Okay. So as I'm thinking about this, the thought that struck me is that it says, to me at least, because of my background and because of who I am and the age I am, that you just don't care. And that made me stop and think about, well, they're being left a world that's pretty severely broken, and they're not being given the resources to fix it. Maybe they just don't care, and maybe that's part of it. I don't know, and it's not saying that that's the case, but that certainly came to my mind, thinking maybe the reflection of the uniform of today, the pajamas and the feeling of relaxedness going into your school or whatever, maybe it's a reflection of say it's a protest saying, I just don't care about your system because it doesn't work for me. And it's
So are
not
we,
like
are we talking about high schoolers or what?
yeah, pretty much high schoolers, maybe even some junior high schoolers. I see them. I was riding the 220 and saw a bunch of them heading home from school, and I'm kind of going, maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I'm just kind of. We all had our uniform, and we all had our forms of protest at one point or another through our lives. I mean, you heard me talk about the 60s lots of times and how it got co opted into a fashion statement. Maybe this is one of those things that started off as a protest, but the corporations are so fast these days to turn it into a fashion statement and a profit opportunity that now everybody's wearing the pajamas when it was originally a protest against the future we're leaving these kids. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you might be overthinking it. The only thing I'll say is that that has been going on for close to maybe approaching a decade. I've had college students showing up with their onesies on, so that this has been going on for a minute. So you may just now be seeing it,
Well, I'm thinking
and now
now
it's
it might be now it might be a fashion statement. When it was onesies originally, maybe it was a protest, and now it's just a fashion statement.
well. I mean, it is comfy. I mean, imagine you wake up because they probably don't sleep in that, and they actually put that on because it's super comfy. It brings attention. It's fun, right?
Hmm.
So I can be Tweety Bird or whatever. So there's that piece of it, and again, I mean, we do want to be comfortable.
Well, absolutely. So I think the next board meeting, I'll just wear my black watch pajama bottoms.
We should ask some youth that. I think that would be an interesting
It's
discussion
I
because I'm thinking
I
about it
intend to.
now, and I think you might be right a little bit on it is a protest, right? I don't want to have to wear Levi's and $200 shoes and Jordans and Air Force Ones and whatever else kids are wearing today.
But a mother I talked to about briefly said that the pajama bottoms that they're wearing to school these days are like $100.
Well, that's crazy. Like I'll tell you, like Layla's 12, right? And she
Hmm.
just turned 12 in October. There there's a bunch of kids that are wearing Crocs. She wears Crocs. Like what 12-year-olds are wearing Crocs? It's the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. And
Especially
now
when it gets wet
they
out.
and now they have these little gems that you can put on there. So a little basketball gem or gymnastics gem. So now they're accessorizing it. And so, there's the Croc crew and it's just so crazy. It's like, you originally you would see doctors and nurses with Crocs on, and now you've got 11-year-olds with Crocs. It's like, what is happening? It's
You know,
hilarious.
but it's interesting to look at, and you know me, I naturally kind of look for trends and things and try and figure out why the trends are there. But why? Where did the trends come from, and where are they going, and what are they trying to tell us? And when did they start getting co-opted? Because if somebody's selling $100 pair of pajamas and kids are wearing it to school, it got co-opted.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Lululemon and Balenciaga, kids are wearing probably some Walmart flannels and next thing you know, hey, we're gonna have the upscale version of it. So here you go.
Yeah, yeah. And then a little DK on the butt.
The good and bad of capitalism, right? The
Yeah,
opportunity of business and then the The
So
predatory nature of it at the same time.
so let's talk about that for just a minute because this is a lot of what I've been thinking lately. And I know we're slightly off topic, but we're not really, because changing the world requires. Aaron Sorkin said, to solve a problem, first you have to recognize there is one.
Mm.
So I've been riding the buses a lot lately, and I've been in a lot of places where a lot of people do work, and it's become really apparent to me, not like this is rocket science or a brainstorm, that people are doing job. They're making their money trying to survive in a world that is harder and harder by the day to survive, harder and harder to pay rent, harder and harder to buy food, harder and harder to do this. They feel they're absolutely alone in this, which I'm going to do a plug. If you're in a neighborhood support, a cross supportive neighborhood, you're not alone. There are other people you can talk to that might have resources to help you, not just whip out their wallet, but have a way to move forward or change something. There's all kinds of ways to deal with this, but it's better if we're together. But you're feeling alone. You're feeling like you're doing your job. You might be, you and your husband or you and your wife are doing a job, trying to reach that magical retirement number, which I have seen fail so many times. I can't even believe that it's still a dream. Um, my mother worked her entire life through the Air Force, through university system, through all types of things to have that magical retirement that will take care of her for the rest of her life. And by the time she'd been 10 years into retirement, now remember, people are living longer than they used to. 10
Hmm.
years into retirement, the place when she started going through dementia, the places she had to live were taking every bit of her money and leaving her almost nothing to do anything else with. And that's her story, but there are thousands and millions of people just like that. There is no magic number of retirement because capitalism by its very nature is geared to take everything you have. And if you don't realize that now, there is no way to retire securely. I mean, unless you're a millionaire, and there aren't that many of them. Um,
I don't know if a millionaire is going to be okay. Not living at, if you're just a millionaire, you may not be able to survive at the level that you're accustomed to.
exactly so. So everybody's working a job just trying to get by. Now, think about this in the terms of somebody who works in a restaurant. And I was using this example earlier with Terry. Okay, so in a restaurant, you have the management, you have the wait staff, you have the kitchen staff, you have the bussers, and then we have the dishwasher. Nobody really wants to do the dishwasher job because it requires a lot of cleaning, a lot of nasty stuff. But it's like the bottom of the totem pole, and that's there. You're getting minimum wage to wash dishes and to keep the restaurant running.
That's so weird. That's the job I always like doing.
Yeah, I know, but that's the way that the world works. Do you agree or
No, no, I agree with you. It's just, I'm not much of a cook, so I'd much rather wash the dishes.
okay? So in my own kitchen here in the house,
Hmm.
I do the dishes. I do the dishes and make sure everything's clean before I start cooking again. Then I do the dishes. It's a repetitive cycle, and sometimes it makes me a little crazy. But I do that because I love serving food. I love feeding people. So I cook and I do the dishes because it's all part of it, and I can make that happen. Now let's put that on a restaurant scale. If you're actually looking at feeding people and the joy it brings of bringing people good food and having them enjoy their experience, then everybody's should be involved in that process. And if you're working at job, you're not involved in that process. You're involved to be able to pay your bills. And if you're not making your bills, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, then you're going to be extremely unhappy and the job isn't working for you. And that's where millions and millions of people in this country are right now.
Hmm.
People who are doing public service aren't doing it to do public service. They're doing it for job, and they're not making it. There's a
Gotcha.
problem with this, and this is capitalism. They'll take everything you have and more for the few, and the many, and I mean the vast many, aren't making it. They're going further and further into debt. They're becoming homeless. They're living with their families. The American dream isn't working for more Americans than it is working for by a lot. So think about that for a moment. Think about how we approach life. Now, let me paint the Roddenberry picture. The Roddenberry picture was that people were given people had a right to shelter, food, education, healthcare, water, heat, all of those things, power, electricity, everything else. If they wanted more than the basics, they had to do something for the public good.
Mm.
Now, let's take that restaurant. Now, look at it again in the way of, yeah, and you put the National Suicide Prevention Hotline right under my picture because I'm talking about depressing stuff. No, no, but let's take a look at the picture of the restaurant. Let's say, so you now have a restaurant where everybody has food, shelter, water, all of the basics covered. They're doing it because they want to feed somebody and make them happy. It's something that they enjoy doing. Now, one of the trouble we have with our paradigm is I want to work in an office and make $1 million. Why would I want to make somebody happy by serving them food? Because we're wired as humans to do it. We are wired to live in community, and that's part of community. I won't say breaking bread, but sharing bread, because Marwan doesn't want the hard, rocky stuff. Um, but let's say we're there now. So the people cooking the food enjoy cooking the food, and they're not worried about whether they make enough money because they're covered. The people serving the food want to serve the food. They enjoy serving the food. They enjoy talking to people. And there are people like that. And they do okay and they're happy to do it. And the people who go to the restaurant are happier. And they all share the dishwashing duties. And so there's nobody doing just the excuse the terminology, shit work. Everyone is to being taken care of at all levels. And the customer is happier than ever before because they're getting food served to them that is served with care and love and desire to provide good food and experience to people. Now, the benefit to all of the people who are doing this work is because
Mm.
serving people and making it and making their lives better and providing a public service, they get more. So their base is taken care of. So the more allows them to do better, have a nicer house, do different things, get different clothes, whatever. It allows them to do more. The trouble with, and I'm going to use the C word here. Marwan's
What word is that? Let me get my mute ready.
communism. I mean, everybody says,
Here
the
we
minute you
go.
start talking about that, everybody says, communism. You know why communism didn't work?
Why is that?
Because it was political.
Mm.
It wasn't social. It wasn't a social movement. It was a political movement. And it was absolutely, totally controlled by dictators. And they had an agenda that was much like the corporate agenda. They wanted it all. And
Mm.
nobody got served because they didn't look at the long term and it wasn't a gradual change from where we are now. As I've said before, there is no such thing as a light switch. If we're going to get to a better place, we have to come together and we have to decide what that better place is, and then we have to work together to make it happen.
Hmm. Absolutely agree with that.
And so, what would a world look like where people enjoyed doing their work and didn't have to worry about whether they were going to be evicted or living in their car?
And you say that's a communist country?
No, I'm just saying that the term communism, and well, this is why when people throw that, well, you're talking about communism. I said, no, I'm talking about humanism. Very different approach.
Mm.
Communism, by its approach, by what we know of its original approach, was a political movement. It was not a social movement. If it was a social movement, it would have included people as opposed to leadership. I don't like terms like communism and socialism because they are used to stop the discussion. They are used to stop any thought toward changing the system, which is visibly broken. And again, I don't think revolution will solve the problem. I think what we have to do is evolve, intentionally evolve together into a more human way of being. And we can't do that until we understand democracy and start working together and implementing democracy.
Well, is there a different or a fuller definition for communism? Let me pop this up for people.
Well, you could
Uh,
read Marx's books, The Communist Manifesto.
It says a political theory derived from Karl Marx, advocating class war and leading to a society in which all property is publicly owned and each person works and is paid according to their abilities and need. So, what about people that can't? I mean, does that not just create a different level
Every
of
eh,
class?
well, yeah, in communism, again, it was a political movement. That was the problem to start with,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to a social movement. And in the Roddenberry model, the people who are unable to work in the normal way still get all the bases covered and are cared for because it's a responsible thing for our society to do is to care for people. But in a capitalism, we can't. We can't afford it.
So again, so what does that mean? Like, okay, so let's say I'm not able to work or I'm elderly. Does that mean that I don't have a hollow suite because I just have the basic needs? I would love to have a hollow suite, but I don't get one because
I
I'm
don't
not.
know. Why don't you come to the table and let's sit down and have a discussion and you say what you need to have? And we put that into the planning. I think that elderly people need to be cared for because in the original way we looked at elderly people before we created a world that created more chances of Alzheimer's and um, I can't remember the word Alzheimer's and such than not. Um,
you, you can't remember
we
the word you're talking
yeah,
about
I'm slipping. Yeah,
Alzheimer's.
um,
Go ahead.
dementia, Alzheimer's and dementia. Um, so if we take a lot of the factors and address a lot of the factors that I think cause some of that, chemical factors, um, aging factors, stress factors, um, we might end up with what we originally thought older people were, which is to say, the wisdom that we need to learn from.
Mhm.
But in our society, people are mirrors of our society, and it's really not something to learn from, because it's broken. What we need to do is create a different environment, and maybe 2-3 generations down the road, that will be the case again, where people who've gone through the evolution will help keep people on track, and that's their gift to, or their work to the society. But we should care for them and make sure that they have all of their health taken care of. They should get what they need to get to survive. And I think in this process we'll end up with less addiction, because the world will not um, you won't need to escape from it as much because it will support you.
So, are you being careful with your words? Because I notice you're saying what they need and not what they want.
Yes, I'm being very careful because I think in the process of consensus, you'll run into a lot of wants, and needs will filter out from that.
So then, who determines what a person needs?
Everyone in the democratic process, by coming to consensus.
But that kind of sucks for me if what I think I need, no one else believes, or the majority. So it's like, well, as a democracy, we don't believe that you need that. That's a want. So you don't get that.
Well, if you make your case good enough and you get more people that want the same thing, there you go.
Wow.
But also understand this. I mean, you're talking about the limitation. Let's talk about the expansion. If people, okay, right now corporations don't spend a lot of money on R&D.
Mm.
If they did, we'd have a lot different and better things than we have now, because we have the technology for it, but it's not being applied. Um, if we had people being educated and following their heart to innovate, and we give them the resources to innovate and the oversight to innovate, oversight, because you don't want somebody playing with plutonium. Okay, let's just put that on the table. You want, there's some safety measures that have to be had in here. So
Or let's not put it on the table.
yeah, exactly. So as people start innovating, we're going to see a whole lot of different things, and we might see an exponential growth in what is available to us, because we're allowing innovation to happen, and because
Well,
there's no profit motive behind it. We'll have a lot more available to all of us.
and I get what you're saying, and I'm gonna just pop this up there again. And to go back to your word perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm choosing to look at it more through the questioning eye and not the, okay, you know what? I'm not going to allow the word or the definition to trigger me like it triggers so many
Right.
people. Let's have an open discussion and see why it doesn't work. How could it work? And could there be elements that we could take from it? Because we do have that on some level, right? Like Social Security and our
Mhm.
roads, right? That's kind of built in socialism. That's for
Yep.
everyone to partake in. And even those systems are a little bit broken, like our healthcare, right? We should have health for all. You shouldn't have to wait. Like people will say, "Oh, well, Canadian healthcare is great because it's free," but then you're waiting for months and years, and people are dying before they get what they need.
For
Yeah.
electives more often than not. If you talk to Canadians, they'll tell you a slightly different story than our media tells us.
Well, I know some Canadians, and they tell me what I'm reporting now. So
Okay.
it's again, it's perspective, right?
Yeah.
Some people have access, and some people don't. And again, not that there's going to be a perfect system. I'll hear a lot of people say, capitalism. We get it. It's not perfect, but it's the most perfect thing that we have. I don't know how much I necessarily agree with that, or if whether that's a true statement or not. It doesn't mean that we don't try to fix it and make it better, right?
Yep. Or
It's almost
transition
like
to
the
something that's way
argument is
better.
this is better than everything else that has come before it. So therefore, ergo, just keep on going the way that it's going. It's like, no, we cannot do that. We need to do something different.
Hmm.
And that's why I'm for a hybrid, right?
Yep.
And we take capitalism out of things like housing and food and just those basic needs, and then allow capitalism to manifest itself in other areas that don't have the impact on people's basic, um, Maslow's hierarchy of basic needs
Yep. And
at
I
that
think
that
I
lower
think
level, right?
yeah, and I think what terrifies all of the people who are capitalists is that when you get to that point, you'll realize that capitalism can be replaced with other things, and there will be a transition happening that they can't stop.
But I don't think it would be replaced. That's what I'm saying. Is I think there's still a place for capitalism and competition and innovation because capitalism does spur that on, right? I can build a better mousetrap. So I think there's a space for that. That doesn't go away. You're just not going to do it in these sectors that affect people's basic living.
Well, I am far from an expert in it. I'm a little cautious about letting the camel's nose in the tent. Um,
Wow,
I
you're
like
going deep today.
yeah, I want to transition out in a way, unless it can be completely regulated into a place where I'm comfortable with it. But the point is, that's my opinion, and the democratic process, much like you said earlier, is about bringing a lot of people to the table and coming to consensus. And I can say, yeah, I really don't, and I will tell you, there's a bunch of people that really don't want capitalism around anymore because very few people are thriving from it. But what we have today is unregulated capitalism and an oligarchy that basically owns our government. Um, and we need to do something different. And I'm happy to see what comes out of that. But I'm going to be promoting a place where we can go and we don't have to worry about capitalism destroying our lives.
Well, let me say three things, right? You're not going to immediately dump capitalism, right? There's going to have to
No,
be a
it's transitional.
transition into something else.
We're talking about a generation.
Right. So all that being said, the three things is this, right? One, you're looking for a win-win-win, but
Hmm.
in order for a win-win-win, someone's going to have to give something from every position, right?
Right,
So the capitalist, okay, we're going to have to switch a little bit. We're not going to lose all the capitalism, right? But we are going to shift away from some capitalism in certain sectors, right? For
right.
those that are wanting to just do something totally different, like yourself, you're like, okay, well, in order to get there, we have to start moving towards something else. And your hope would be that as we move, we discover something better and we can just go ahead and reject capitalism and capitalists will come on board. And then here I am in the middle saying there should be a hybrid. And it's like, yes, let's move away from capitalism in certain sectors, keep it over here. And now we're all speaking the same language and rolling together, even though we still kind of are coming to the table with different agendas and
Mhm.
outcomes, but we're rolling in the same
And
spot.
I'm okay with that.
And
But
but the thing is that the dialogue piece that's important is getting all of those detractors in the same room and to say that's why I use intellectually honest. Let's have a conversation. I know what your position is. You don't have to, hold fast to your position and not give and say, hey, you know what? That's a good idea, for fear that I'm like, I got you. So that's why we're doing that, right? Because
Mhm.
now I got you to agree. We're having a discussion and we're just looking around where we can pick on the things that we like and implement the things that we all agree on.
With the hope of finding consensus, honest consensus to move forward.
Consensus is in there, and that's my
Yeah.
argument, and that's why I gave that specific example for the three different camps. There is consensus in there.
And we will need to see if we can find it. So
Mhm.
I have, considering our discussion, I have our last statement for the night, or for the afternoon. This was a thought I had the other day, and I just want to share for people to think about between now and the next week. Is that capitalism represents an artificial resource that has been artificially fixed and represents real resources. And we are using real resources way beyond sanity to attain this fictitious resource that has been agreed on and made up by people.
All right. Well, I mean, another lively episode. Do want to tell everyone, join us for coffee at Cups Cafe on 4th and Pacific, 10 a.m. on Sundays. Always a great discussion. A lot of folks are showing up to that, which is fantastic. I love to hear it. And again, please do RSVP if you want more information. Info at resecho.org for Stone Soup, February 9th, 6 p.m. at the Westside Improvement Center, 4109 West E Street in Bremerton, Washington. Um, Guarantee you, you'll have a good time. You'll learn some things, and you'll probably meet another new friend. And 2024 can be different than 2023. So we're going to take
Absolutely.
the locus of control. We're going to steer our ship and not let this ship steer us. Final word?
Just remember to subscribe, hit the bell, and join us every Wednesday
All right.
or whenever afterwards you can. Oh, final note. Doing a Steps to a Human Future is short podcasts. I started them last Monday. I'm going to be doing them every Monday. They will be on Resiliency Rocks and on live stream on the Kids Up Resiliency Project page.
Nice. All right. So look out for that. Make sure not only that you subscribe, but hit the reminder, hit the bell, and say all so you get the notifications. And if you haven't been getting them, you do get unsubscribed from time to time and unnotified. So sometimes you have to unsubscribe and resubscribe if you're not getting the notifications. All right. So for Mark Boatwright Frost, I am Marwan Cameron. We will be back tonight at 5 p.m. study session. A lot of important pieces on the table tonight. I believe, I don't know if Mayor Wheeler will be at City Council. We'll be talking about the different shelter options. This is a big one, so we will be broadcasting that live. This is Tipping Points and Puzzle Pieces. Take care of yourself. Take care.